What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Play the Fight Song College Football Show. An action-packed week is upon us once again as the Week 5 slate was absolutely loaded. And when it came through, gentlemen, I don't know if there's a better way to put it. So many overtime games, big-time matchups, game-winning kicks. I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of production we got from college football last week. I don't know if you guys can hear this. My dog is zooming around our living room.
I hear Mags. She's being a dog.
Maggie, please stop. I don't know what's going on. Yep, there she is. But all right, welcome to the show. Appreciate you being here.
Barking.
Boys are all with us. JP, Jake, Reese. It was a great week. Initial thoughts of Week 5. Did it live up to the hype in your mind, JP?
Absolutely. Had a blast. Great early slate, great midday slate, great late night slate. Even get into that BYU Colorado game, like late night, right? Got a little testy, got a little fun. Pumped to do it. Shout out to the 3 Tech boys for letting us pop onto their reaction show late night Saturday night. Had a ton of fun doing that. And, we're ready to turn the page into another slate where there's some matchups around the country aren't getting the love they deserve. So we're going to do that here on Play the Fight Song.
Yeah, no, thanks for that shout out. I definitely had that one on the list. It was fun on 3 Tech Saturday night. We were up late, red eye. JP stayed awake for it. It was a fun recap. So check that out at 3 Tech Pod on all platforms. Shout out to those guys for having us on. Jake, what about you? You were in Ames for that Arizona-Iowa State matchup. How was your weekend outside of that? Did you get to tune into any games?
We tuned into all of them. Yeah. We caught the end of
I mean, you say that, but you had to miss. You caught the end of it. You said we tuned into all of them. Caught the end of it.
Caught the end.
Big Ten Jake didn't miss the game in Happy
Yeah,
Valley.
Big Ten Jake didn't miss his pick. I can tell you that much. He wasn't going to miss the one in Happy Valley at the end. Caught Alabama, Georgia in the fourth quarter. Friday night was fantastic. Caught pretty much everything up until 6 o'clock. And then I was up until 12:30 watching BYU Colorado, as you gentlemen were doing a nice job on the 3 Tech Pods. So that was fun to listen to. Too bad it only took you an hour and a half to finally talk about the real whiteout that happened on Saturday. But besides the point, I thought it was a good show. Hey,
it wasn't our show. We couldn't steer the direction. I saw the comment and come in, and I was like, I got to wait for this door to open because we do got to bring up that he just called it the real whiteout, and they haven't talked about it yet. Reese, what about you? We unfortunately ran into an all-time hangover game for Syracuse, but what do you think about Q's without Angeli going forward?
Yeah, it turns out the Italian Stallion might be the difference maker in upstate New York for a little bit. Ricky Collins might have to get a couple games under his belt, and Jeff Nix, we might have to adjust the game plan going forward here if we can't get the run game going, because that was a tough show. It was like they were my dog. I'm like, it's still Ricky Collins, still LSU 4-star and pick on the first drive, and I'm like, yeah, we're dead. It's tough.
Yeah, we're dead.
It is what it is. We're going to scratch and claw, but just not a lot of fight out of the offense. But I mean, you get SMU this week now. Last time we were 7.5 point. I believe it's 17.5, might be 16.5 now. But that big of a spread, we went into Death Valley and won. So hey, don't count out the orange now. So.
Yeah, the Week 6 slate has some good matchups on it. I've heard a lot of BS out there about there's not being a good games. There people remember that feeling mid-July, mid-August where you're like, I would take any form of college football. So we take them as they come, and that's usually the weeks that we're going to get a couple of good ones. So we're going to preview Week 6 tonight. First, we're going to recap Week 5. Check out all of our fan perspectives that are streaming for this week live right now on our YouTube. And if you haven't and you're on X or Facebook watching, head over to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, and hit the like button on this video. It helps more than you know. We appreciate you so much for being here. But let's start off everything by doing Week 5 recaps. Just a couple of questions, same way we do it week to week, gents. Let's start it off with your main takeaway for the weekend. There's a lot of good games, a lot of big-time teams, a lot of movement within our top 25. So this could take a minute. But let's go through them. JP, you first.
Yeah, first big takeaway, right? You better show up for a fight every weekend, no matter who you're playing, no matter who is on the schedule. Florida State, Houston, Louisville, USC, Georgia Tech, A&M, Tennessee, Western Kentucky, BYU, all of them, right? Got an absolute dogfights, and there's more, but these are ones, some of them you wouldn't expect the fight they got into. It's just one of those years in college football where you can't sit there and show up on a Saturday and expect to roll somebody. And it's one of those things where I think there are more teams that are above the bad line and less above the elite line. That just puts everybody kind of more so towards the middle tier of college football, talent-wise, and just how good teams are. So it's good. You got to show up and play football games. Like, you can't just skate by and win 11 games. It's hard to win 11. 12's feels impossible for some teams all across the country right now, but it's going to be a hell of a year, but you have to show up and fight every Saturday.
Jake, your biggest takeaway from week 5?
Yeah, week 6 might make me look like a bozo before I say this, but I will say it. Contender, Vanderbilt, pretender, LSU. The AP poll might have it wrong, but here, play the fight song. I don't think we do, because Vanderbilt is a more legitimate SEC title contender, playoff contender than I think LSU will ever be this season. And I'm glad we got the narrative out of the way, because Ole Miss finally proved a lot of the deficiencies that LSU was just skating by with, including running the football. And I'm not saying LSU is out of the playoff race, because that's far from the truth. But could you imagine saying Vanderbilt is more of a real legitimate playoff contender and a legit, top 5, top 4 team in the SEC than LSU is, even 2 years ago? Seems pretty crazy to say, but I believe it wholeheartedly. And I mean, we'll talk about the Commodores later.
I think putting it as pretty crazy is pretty crazy. I mean, it's legitimately insane that we're talking about Vanderbilt in the grand scheme of SEC football, which is awesome, but we will get a chance to talk the Doors later. Reese, your biggest takeaway week 5?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback kind of off of both of your guys' ideas, but remember I caught flack. I think me and Parks, we caught flack a couple years ago, like the 12-team playoff not being good. Can we admit it's been good for college football so far? Like, this year's a little more fun. I think, like, if you look at the top 15 teams, like, I think, like, I looked at it, I think you have 8 teams, 7 teams, and maybe, who knows, in a couple weeks, like, you might get to add to that list, but, like, teams that could legitimately win the national title. Like, I don't think it's clear cut dry that, like, Ohio State goes and wins this thing or Miami goes and wins this thing. Like, we get that playoff at the end. Oklahoma gets Mateer healthy. Texas A&M's been playing well. If Arch figures this stuff out, Bama just got a huge win. Oregon got a huge run on the road. Like, Texas Tech, if they keep going, Indiana keeps playing well. Like, if Notre Dame runs the table, like, this thing feels wide open. And I just think it's good for college football. Like, there's just no, these are the clear-cut teams that, like, I think JB talked about, like, there's there's less teams that are elite, and there's more teams kind of in the just right below it. But those teams that are right below that elite, I think those teams can go in and compete those elite teams. Like, I think Miami's shown it this year and Ohio State's shown it. But, like, other than that, I think there's teams that can go in and beat anybody on any given day. Like JB's talked about, you can't just show up and beat somebody. You have to go in and play football week in and week out. And I think it's just going to show, like, 12-teamer has been pretty solid for college football, I think, as we've given it a little bit of time.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I do hate the narrative, or like the constant verbiage I keep hearing of it's such a week-to-week sport now, because it makes me retain back. That's what it was, one of my always excuses with the NFL. I'm like, it's so week-to-week. Who knows? But the sport overall is closer and leaning towards the NFL. At the end of the day, I just got to come to peace with it in my mind. My takeaway, and it focused on one team. It probably could have fit into the storyline topic that we'll go into next, but Illinois still in the fight, gents. I think a lot of people in that game kind of went to the wish-wash because it was early in the day, and then Alabama, Georgia happened. Even Colorado, BYU was such a great late-night game, and you had all the overtime matchups, but it kind of went unnoticed that Illinois went down and beat that USC team, and especially really bouncing back after a 63-10 drubbing against Indiana. So I think Illinois is still in the fight for the Big Ten. I'm still high on them. I went down with the ship, and it worked out for me. So highlight and shout out to Brett Beal and the squad for coming back and winning a big-time matchup at home, and maybe changing some narratives around USC once again. A little bit of a letdown there for the Trojans. All right, let's go to storylines of week 5 quickly. Your storyline, this could be in regards to a player and or team. JP, what's yours?
The Mississippi State resurgence. I think I'm still trying to see what they are, but they've had 2 games now where they've kind of shown up and proven a lot of people wrong. Like, play really tight with Tennessee, beat Arizona State earlier in the year. Now they go to A&M, and they're a pretty popular underdog for people to pick, is like 14-point dog, something like that, going into Kyle Field. I still kind of need to see something. I think they're obviously better than last year, like much improved. But what are they really, and what is that team's real, high-end win total? I think that's what I still need to find out. But there's a real resurgence there, and it's actually starting to look like you can't just count them out of a Saturday as a second or third bye week. It's a real opportunity for Levy to continue to grow that program. And if he's got a healthy quarterback and a pretty darn good back in Fluff Bothwell, like, you don't know. Like, they can continue to get better and better as the year goes, and they'll if they play this way, they're getting somebody. Somebody's going to get beat by them within the SEC you weren't expecting.
I couldn't remember if it was JP or Jake in the preseason. Remember, I think it was Jake that came on and he talked about we really need these bottom to middle tier SEC teams to start competing more, especially in games like this. Jake, is this kind of what you're talking about? You agree with JP that it's good for Mississippi State to do that?
I think so. If we're looking for other leagues to have multiple bids, you need the carnage again this year.
Yeah.
My worry heading into the season was that I thought there was going to be a lot of top heavy teams in the SEC, but that was my takeaway from last week. Is I do think the SEC is. I mean, we've never seen a league this wide open before. I legitimately think that. I know the Big 12 might have something to say about it, but even I think the SEC from top to bottom is still those bottom 3 or 4 teams could have a better shot than where, like, say Oklahoma State's sitting at right now, where like West Virginia's sitting at right now. But like your Mississippi States, obviously your Vanderbilts, maybe like a Kentucky's kind of out of it at this point. But even then, like they still feel like they put up a better fight than some of your Big 12 teams. So yeah, I do think the carnage is good for the overall health of college football, but we'll wait for that conversation in December when maybe 6 or 7 SEC teams need to be in the playoff.
Fair enough. Give us your storyline from week 5.
Yeah. What have we been talking about? When we've been talking about quarterbacks in college football for the first 5 weeks, it really feels like we've just been talking about the negatives. Like Arch is a bust. Lagway's terrible. Klubnik's overrated. Drew Aller can't win a big game. And to be honest with you fellas, I'm really, really tiresome of these conversations, and I'm over it. And I wish we would have more conversations on legitimate good quarterbacks in college football. But here's the problem. Most of them don't play for your national title contenders or your top 5 big power name brand schools. A lot of quarterbacks in the Big 12 are doing really good this year. Brendan Sorsby had a really good week last week. I'm going to be biased and say Rocco Becht has not gotten enough praise yet this year. Sam Levitt, Sawyer Robertson, Diego Pavia is another one. Colton Joseph, if we want to go to the G5. Drew Mestamaker at North Texas hasn't gotten enough love. The list goes on. And we just never talk about these guys.
Say it. Say it.
Like, say who?
Raiola's got. He has not gotten enough.
Look at his hat.
What he's done.
Okay, I wouldn't put him.
11 touchdowns, 1 pick. He's 4th in the country in passing yards. No, but we just want to talk about
Hoover?
how he pulls his
That's Hoover numbers.
That is Josh Hoover. I didn't say Josh Hoover either. Notice I didn't say that.
Stud.
So my main point is, yes, I think we're not talking about enough young quarterbacks or even just really good quarterbacks that have done a lot for their teams this year. And we just week to week, we just talk about the big name brand that either sucked or lost it for his team or whatever have you. And it's really annoying. And it gets every show talks about it. It's really old to me.
That fair enough. I guess maybe it's a part of, I feel like we see a lot of their takes on X and it's pretty negative place overall. And everybody just wants to crap on everybody. But you're right. It would definitely be nice to kind of list out the people who are balling out, because there is a good number of quarterbacks that aren't a part of those national brands that are. So I love that. My storyline pertains to a specific team, and fellas, Ohio State went into Seattle last week and took it to Washington pretty good. And I don't know, and this is kind of a question to all of you. Is this just an Ohio State repeat that we're trying to push off the table, or did I overvalue Washington? Because I really felt like Washington was going to make it a hell of a ball game, and Matt Patricia and that Ohio State defense didn't let that happen. So did I overvalue Washington possibly a little bit, or is there an Ohio State repeat on the table that we're kind of pushing down the line, JP?
I don't think you're overvaluing Washington. I think you got a quarterback that is in that young category that wasn't ready to consistently be that next level thrower with the weapons on the outside. It's also tough when they can't run the football to supplement him. I still think they have another step to go on the defensive offensive line, and Ohio State took advantage of that. Like, controlling the football game goes a long way in the Big Ten. Like, there's a real, identity to that. There's a real piece of that translates just about everywhere. And you'll see that if that's what they want to do, that's what they're going to do. And that's kind of what you found out that week. So I wouldn't say you overvalued them. I wouldn't say anybody did. I think you took it for exactly what it was. It's a tough place to play in a spot that felt like it could be tough going across a couple time zones. it was tough. I can't imagine it was easy for them to play there. But when you get up early and you control the entire game, it takes fan base out of it.
Yeah, they did really control that from start to finish. So it was impressive. And I just want to say my storyline would be Ohio State just might be that damn good on defense to do this thing again. Reese, your storyline week 5.
Yeah, I'm sticking with the defense, but I'm going on kind of on the negative side. My SEC champion pick is kind of dwindling my confidence in them. Georgia, I think this defense is an issue. We talked about them like last week. JP mentioned on the 3 Tech show too. Like they were, or Alabama was 13 of 19 on third downs, and it didn't matter if it was third and short or third and long. They were getting them, no problem. Ty Simpson was having good reads, and then like that game in Knoxville, yes, you went and won that football game. But you were 4 yards shy of giving it 500 yards. Joey Aguilar, his first real test, gave up 4 touchdowns or had 4 touchdowns through the air.
You're a kick away from a loss.
You're a kick away from a loss. Like when you talk about the Georgia teams, the national champion teams, like you're like, it's the defense. Like it's the defense. Like this is what Kirby Smart and this team has. That's their identity. Like they're going to smash you in the face. They're going to take the football from you. And I still think they're a very good football team. They're going to beat it at the end. But when you think of national champion and this Georgia team, like this defense is just not what it has been in the past, or at least they have not shown it yet. It doesn't mean they can't do it. They just have not shown it. They got to find a way to kick it to that next notch to get stops, get turnovers, what it is, kind of get that identity back because it just has not shown up from them so far this year. And now kind of getting the heart of that SEC schedule, like JB mentioned, week in and week out, you're going to get tested and they got to figure out some sort of switch to kind of keep this thing going, I think.
I like that because it's been an idea I've had in my mind of I feel like college football defenses in general, like teams that are usually pretty dominant, like a Georgia on defense, just aren't as dominant this year. Like Tennessee is another one that's usually really good defensively. That game was 38-35 that we just mentioned. Ohio State seems to be the only one living up to that hype, but Nebraska's taking a massive step back on defense. Iowa, their fans, JP, you can agree, it feels like you've taken a minor step back, even though Indiana was a hell of a performance. Even on the Nebraska side, the Florida State defense, thought they looked incredibly leaps and bounds better, give up 38 points to Virginia. So I feel like it's just like games are playing out like college football 25 simulated scores almost in college football this year. So I like that point out of Reese. But all right, that's it for week 5. Any other points that people want to touch on before we move on to week 6 previews? No? Floor is open.
Pumped. We got 3 games on here I'm pumped to talk about. It's going to be a ton of fun. I think if you guys have games that you want covered, like if we're looking ahead in the next couple of weeks, put those in the comments, put those on our socials and everything, and give us some, tips and pointers on what games you guys want to see because we will look at them. We don't just want to do the big national ones every year. That's going to get 5,000 touch points. I'm going to hear about these X amount, 3 or 4 big games at halftime on a Thursday night football game between 2 Conference USA teams who are battling it out for a conference win. Like that's not what we want here. We want to cover every team, all the 136. So if you want to see certain games, let us know, and we'll try and build them into each week's schedule.
Love that point. All right.
Great point.
Who is what? Who is tomorrow? Is what you're asking?
Sam Houston, New Mexico State.
That's a
Bears path with a K.
That's a Sickos special.
That is
Longo.
We are the Sickos, but those recaps were presented by Frost Buddy. Check out our shop, frostbuddy.com/PTFS. Make sure you use that link, frostbuddy.com/PTFS. Get your universal can cooler to keep your drinks cold all season long at your tailgates. Although it's getting easier, weather's getting a little colder. Saturdays down south stay warm enough to keep your drinks cold. So check out the universal can cooler over at frostbuddy.com/PTFS. Okay, gents. The time has come. Week 6 is upon us. Let's kick it off in the SEC. Let's do this. Vanderbilt heads in to Tuscaloosa to take on the Crimson Tide. Going for revenge is the Crimson Tide. We don't get to say that often, so we got to use it when we can. Alabama, a 10.5-point favorite at home against Diego Pavia's squad. Let's break this one down from the top. JP, kick us off.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to lead this off by asking, is there a world where Pavia and the Commodore offense outdoes Simpson in the Alabama offense? Is that a world we live in right now? Because you got to think about it. That's how they won the game last year. I know this is a different look Alabama defense and a different look Alabama offense, but it's very much an improved Vanderbilt team. I'd say they're better offensively and defensively from a season ago. But that's kind of feels like what they're going to have to do in this situation. There's guys that you need to pay attention to that are going to be able to get after or attempt to get after Alabama's secondary and Stowers, Richardson, Sherrill, all been really good, pretty much even throughout the targets. I think Stowers leads that in his receptions and the yards he gets. He's a legit piece of an offense that anybody in the country would like to have. Pavia just has a different thing about him, right? He's going to hold himself to a little bit of swagger. You saw it in the SEC show on Netflix. You saw it just through interviews of last year. He does it on, social media in different spots. He's going to carry himself a little bit differently. And Alabama remembers that kind of thing. Also, this kid doesn't care whether you remember it, whether you like him or not, whether you have ammo on him, whether he's bulletin board material. None of that bothers him. The problem with a little bit of this is, where do the stops come from Vanderbilt to stay in this? Like, do you need 50 to win? Do you need 42 to win? It feels like that's kind of where this Vanderbilt team is. Even when they're blowing teams out, they're giving up points. Utah State had a good run at them in this year. In South Carolina, like, to be fair with you, like, that South Carolina team is not very good. Got absolutely drubbed at home. Maybe that's where Vanderbilt kind of gains their confidence. Like, we've played this an SEC team. Maybe we can play and ball up a little bit more defensively. Will Vanderbilt get the explosive play that they've kind of been really, really good at in hunting all year long? Again, Georgia had chances for it. They dropped one of the touchdowns, had a couple big plays with Stockton. Here's something that I talked about last week with Stockton that is going to happen. I'm going to guarantee it happens. They didn't run Stockton as much as I thought they would against Alabama's defense. Pavia will carry the football, designed or otherwise. Like, he's going to get his yards. He's going to get his. But can you limit him vertically in that pass game vertically? That really limits what Vanderbilt's going to do. Maybe that run game supplements him and gives them ability to hit over the top once or twice. And then, can Alabama control the ground game? It's not been a bad rush attack. I think they're very happy with what they got last week in some ways. The offensive line looked better. I think if Alabama can put themselves in a spot where they are controlling the run game, therefore controlling the clock, therefore controlling the game, they limit what Vanderbilt does best, and that's score points. Like, that's a really good offense. Keep them off the field, control everything, have your team feel comfortable, and you got a quarterback that's feeling just about as confident as anybody else in the country. So those are points I wanted to kind of cover. It's going to be a really good one. I think this line, like 10.5, 11.5, it's been around there all week. It's going to be a ton of fun. You're not going to get Alabama napping, though, this time. It doesn't feel like.
No, absolutely not. And I like the way you ended that, because I feel like there's a couple games on the slate this week that we're breaking down where you really have to play against what an offense wants to do, because they want to get out there and they want to fly and they want to put up a bunch of points. And Vanderbilt fits that narrative in this game in my mind. But on the flip side of things, Vanderbilt's also a team defensively that you can't say giving up 35 points to Utah State is not a bad sign leading into your game heading into Tuscaloosa the next week, because it is. They gave up 274 yards passing last week to Utah State, and Utah State's only a team that floats around the 230 yards a game in that category. So you let them beat their average. And then on the flip side, you have a Alabama team whose offense, especially in the passing game with Ty Simpson, has been pretty much splendid. And even in week one, it wasn't that bad, but they're 8th in college football right now, 322 yards a game through the air. Granted, JP just told you they do need to slow the game down, keep Diego Pavia and that group off the field. But I really think this Alabama team's in for a heyday through the air. I think they're going to be able to do a lot, and that's what they're going to do effectively to score points. I think it's a great opportunity for Alabama to get Ryan Williams back on track. He struggled early this season with some drops and just hasn't been playing up to the hype that we built for him in the offseason. And one point about Vanderbilt before we let Jake go is, fellas, do we understand how many times this team gets penalized a game? Nobody wants to talk about it, but going on a road in an environment like this, you'd think it's not going to be allowed in the revenge spot. They average like 120 yards of penalty yards a game. They haven't played clean all year, so they are going into a buzzsaw, in my opinion, in this Tuscaloosa game. So I like Alabama to cover this number pretty easily. I think it's too much. And this is the Diego Pavia, not shut up game, because he still won't, because that is the type of player he is, but it's going to be a game where the resurgence of the Alabama fans really takes flight after that win last week against Georgia. I don't think it's going to be a hangover at all. Revenge is sometimes sweeter. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, JP, I thought you did a nice job of laying the blueprint out for an Alabama win. So I guess I'll give you the Vanderbilt blueprint. And let's just be clear, this isn't your uncle's Vanderbilt. Like, this is a real 5-0 football team, and don't let the AP poll tell you otherwise.
We play SEC ball.
You mentioned, JP, like, is Diego Pavia going to run the football 100 times? He leads the team in carries. He rushed it for 20 times last year. Alabama's actually statistically one of the worst rush defenses in Power 4, and their pressure rate is not good at all either. So the defensive line to this point has taken a step back. So that's fascinating for me because I actually do like Vanderbilt's offensive line. For me, is you mentioned it, JP. Can Pavia beat you over the top? Pavia has shown he has increased his ability to stay in the pocket and be efficient with his throws tremendously this year. He is actually one of the more efficient passers in college football up to this point. It's start fast and play clean if you're Vanderbilt. Start fast like you did last year. Alabama, to JP's credit, they want to control the game running the football. Last year you went up, was it 20-7? Jim Miller had 5 carries for an average of 9 yards per carry. But guess what? You can't give him the ball when you're down that much. Force a guy like Ty Simpson to come back from behind, throw the ball an absolute ton. And I mentioned you got to play clean if you're going to win there for the first time since 1984. Alabama's number 1 in the country in turnover margin. I actually do not think they've turned it over this year to this point. And somebody might have to fact check me on that, but I do.
That sounds right. I know Simpson hasn't thrown any picks, so
they're going to play clean, and you got to match along too. I know you might have a little chip on your shoulder. I think the penalties are going to happen. Penalties, I don't think will live and die by your results on Saturday, but you certainly cannot give the ball back to Alabama more times than you can afford. So I think that's the blueprint for Vanderbilt, in my opinion.
Reese,
turnover free.
Yeah. How is Alabama going to go in and limit the Haynes King of the SEC and Diego Pavia? This guy is he's going to carry it. That's not an insult. It's Haynes King, dude. That guy that's our boy.
That's Haynes the King. But go on.
But like you talked about, like I think we mentioned, but he runs the ball extremely well. Like this Vanderbilt offense, they have 223 yards on the ground per game. They have almost 500 yards per game. Like it's a well put together offense. Tim Beck, they spread out. It's not just one guy getting the ball. Like we talk about, Star Wars is leading in receptions, but it's multiple guys getting the ball. And Cedric Alexander's right behind Pavia, running the ball extremely well. Like you talk about you got to start off early and you got to be efficient with it. You can't be turning the ball over, give Alabama multiple chances. But yeah, the defense for Alabama is what I'm looking at. Like in the secondary, I'm looking at Bray Hubbard and Damani Jackson, and on the line, I'm looking at LT Overton. Like they got to come down to the second level, wrap up early, and they can't let guys get to that third level. And especially if you're on the line, you can't let Pavia get out of the pocket and go do something with his legs. I think if you can shut them down early, I think that's a recipe for success for you if you're Alabama, especially if you want them to cover this number. But I think this is a spot you're like, it's just we don't have much more of Diego Pavia. Like this is a game where, yeah, he won it at home last year, but you tell me this dude isn't fired up to go to Tuscaloosa with an opportunity to beat this football team. Like I'm going to pick this guy because I just think he's just, like this is his shot to do this thing. I'm not gonna go their way. I just think he's just
short kings. Let's go, Reese.
That's my boy. This is like Baker, let's go. This is like betting against Baker Mayfield, man. Like I'm not gonna do that shit. I think I'm just a gamer.
All right, so Reese starting it.
Yeah, take us into picks, Reese. Vanderbilt, is that your choice against the number, or you think outright? How confident are we?
If Alabama does win, I think it's going to be within the number. If Vanderbilt does win, it's not going to be a blowout. It's not going to be, by a touchdown or more. I think it's going to be within 3-4, somewhere in there. But as long as they just don't turn the ball over and they don't give Alabama multiple opportunities, especially with that crowd, because that's going to be a big factor too for Pavia to overcome. But if they can play clean, efficient, limit the penalties like you mentioned, Parks, and Pavia can just go in there and be the dude and spread it out, Tim Beck, and they can have a solid offensive plan, I think there's a very real chance Vanderbilt can go in there and keep it within the number, and who knows what the hell if they can win this football game too.
All right, so first pick off the board goes to Vandy. Jake, where you at?
Yeah, I would say that, I don't know how dumb this sounds, but the first one to a double-digit deficit, the first one to go up 10 or 14 points easily wins this football game, in my opinion. All the stats just lean Vanderbilt for me. And I know Alabama's played a much tougher schedule up until this point, playing at Tallahassee and playing at Georgia. But, I know Pavia's kind of talked his stuff before, but there was another 5'8" quarterback that said, oh, he better watch what he's saying. Alabama's going to go out there and crush him. And he won the football game outright. So I lean Vanderbilt covering the number in this one. I picked Alabama last week. I still think they're really good. Doesn't change my opinion on them. But if we're picking cover, I'll definitely pick Vanderbilt to cover here.
I like that take on the first 10-point margin to really run away with this game or at least win it. I think Alabama's that team. I do. I think it's too much at home in a revenge spot. After coming off a big win, you've seen the resurgence of the fan base this week coming out and kind of being back to their old self since we saw week 1 and how many people checked this team off of a list. But Ty Simpson's been elite, man. And I think this is just another opportunity for him to prove he's one of the best in the SEC, which it feels like right now. And I think there's going to be a couple of Plaxico Burress shoot yourself in the foot moments from Vanderbilt that really lead Alabama into a 14, 17-point win at minimum, in my mind. This has Crimson Tide written all over it for me. What do you think, JP?
Yeah, I said Pavia is going to take his shots. It's if they land or not, right? Do those deep shots and those risk throws become turnovers, or they become big gains and touchdowns? I think Alabama wins this one. I think Alabama covers, but I think it's more so along the lines of this game's tight, and it just gets to a point where you're relying on an Alabama team to get a stop rather than a Vanderbilt team to get a stop to keep their team in it. So limit the turnovers, keep it that direction, and I think Alabama covers here, but it's tight the whole way. It's just one of those spots. I'd rather take Alabama to get a stop here late than I would Vanderbilt.
All right, a 2-2 split to start tonight's previews. I love that. Before we go to the next one, we remind you that our previews are presented by our great partner over at No Rivals. Shop norivals.com. Use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping on all of the best hats in college sports. Reese and I got a couple of them on. I got the Herbie on with the little rope, nice breathable back. Reese has got the Kentucky retro hat on. I wish they could go back to those days with the way they're playing. Check out Shop No Rivals. ShopNoRivals.com today. Use code PTFS. Check out their new Pink Out collection. Support breast cancer as it is the start of October. It's spooky season. Support breast cancer awareness. The money goes back to some cancer research. Check them out today. ShopNoRivals.com. Use code PTFS at checkout for free shipping. All right, let's go to the next game. Let's go into the ACC. Let's talk the Canes and the Noles. The Noles coming off, obviously, a big-time loss on a national stage, one of the most viewed games in college football history on a weeknight. Gentlemen, what do we think about this game? Jake, why don't you break this one down for us?
Yeah, coming off a frustrating loss, if you're a Florida State fan, this is ultimate, what do they call it, wounded dog, wounded animal mode. For Miami going on the road. While they haven't left the state of Florida yet, this is their first true road test, and this is a Tallahassee crew that I think is going to be absolutely fired up and still has everything on the line as far as college football playoff implications, ACC title implications. This one means a ton for the Seminoles, so don't get it twisted. Storyline of this one is fascinating. Miami has one of the best defensive lines, one of the best rush defenses in all of college football, and they're going up against one of the more creative and dynamic run games in all of college football with Thomas Castellanos, Shawchuck, and just Gus Malzahn dialing up a bunch of different schemes. The O-line for Florida State, however, it's very, I would say it's average, if we're going to be honest. It's not very strong, but Gus has just done an awesome job of manipulating everything up until this point, and they've just been so effective. I mean, they rushed, we're probably going to highlight it in my next game too. They rushed the ball for over 40 times last week, and still we're getting 4 yards per carry. That's how good this running attack is. Can Miami force Castellanos to stay in the pocket and throw the football? If that happens early, it's wraps. I think Miami jumps on them and gets on them fast. The defense feels revitalized under Tony White, kind of like you said, Parks. I know last week was maybe an anomaly. I felt like some turnovers put the defense in a bad situation for Florida State. I still think that's a pretty good defense out of Florida State. Well, we'll see. I think Miami's offense has shown blood at times. It still feels pretty good, but I definitely feel like, fellas, the numbers don't lie. I said this is the first true road test for Miami. Go check out, I think it was Cover 3 who highlighted Carson Beck's numbers on the road compared to at home last year. It's a real thing. So I think Carson Beck has looked better. I think he looks more comfortable. I love the offensive line for Miami, but this is a rivalry game. Things get weird. You come out fast and you jump on Miami early and show blood. They're in for a fight.
I guess I'll follow the blueprint recipe and go along the lines of Miami, but I'm glad you made the point about this being on the road and made it such an emphasized point, because this stadium, Doak Campbell's going to be ready to go. I don't think last week was going to steer them any which direction. I think that they're still confident in this team, as they should be with what their offense has done. But if you're Miami, look what you've done well all year to get you to the point that you're at, and you've controlled the clock. They have more than you think, and it's based off They forced a couple of turnovers that allowed them elongated drives. But when it's come down to it, in that Florida game, they really could do whatever they wanted and keep the ball for 7 to 8 minutes at a time at some points. And they've won the time of possession in every game they played this year. And I think that's kind of the recipe they need to follow this weekend on the road, is keep that offense off the field, because we've seen how this train can get rolling for Florida State when Castellanos gets going. If you keep them off the field, that's when you're going to find the most success and kind of keep it that low-scoring game, because Castellanos, when he gets his legs going, it's really, really hard to stop this Florida State offense. You kind of saw the recipe last week with Virginia. When they made him throw it like Jake told you, he wasn't very good, man. 18 for 32. He just couldn't do what he wanted as consistently as he wanted.
Throw everything to Deuce Robinson. That's what he does.
If he's
He's
still
out there
alive.
somewhere.
Yeah, if he's still alive, he might have gotten trampled last week. But I guess the last point would be, if you're Miami, one good thing you got to get going is the ground game, and that starts with Fletcher. You got to get Fletcher going. He's got to get to that 5-6 yards a pop early in the game to really establish those drives and let you get up a little bit and keep that offense off the field. But I think the Canes have a chance here, and I am a guy who said Miami was going to go 7-5, and here we are, pretty damn close to that 7. So we could use a Florida State win for my early season takes. Yeah. What do you think, Reese?
I'm also on that train. Hand up accountability. We are a accountability podcast.
Hey, sometimes you're wrong.
That was my favorite under on the year, but whatever. Here we are. But yeah, no, you're looking at this game too. And how is Florida State going to bounce back, specifically that defense? Offense still went there and put up 38 points, but you give up more than that. So that's how you lose that football game if you're doing math.
It's true.
The thing
Good
is,
recipe.
you also gave up 200 yards on the ground to a Virginia team that has not run the ball that very well too. So I think Miami might be looking at that. Like you just talked about Parks, getting Fletcher going. But Tony White, man, you got to get creative with some blitz packages, something to get pressure on Beck. You got to stop the run game. The Miami's averaging about 180 on the ground so far. So how are you going to bounce back? Tony White, proud Syracuse and Nebraska alum. Shout out that guy. But also too, Florida State offensively weren't that. Should have. Too bad. Yeah, in Syracuse, you're right. But offensively, Syracuse too. It's a problem where you went 6 of 15 on third downs. You can't afford to do that in this football game, especially too if you're going to get in third and long, which I think Sheriff touched on it too. Like this Miami in the trenches, Miami might be the best team in the country on both sides of the football too. So I think by the end of the first half, we're going to know if Florida State can stick around in this game because of how dominant and how physical Miami is on both sides of the football. So if Florida State is able to get their legs running the football, then I think we got a hell of a football game on our hands. But if Miami's push them around, then I think Florida State's got an uphill battle.
God, the Florida State defense, we got to see a little bit more out of them this week. And like what we saw from them week 1 with Alabama and what they've slowed down and what Alabama's been since that. Ooh, if we get that team again, it's going to be a dogfight. What do you think, JP?
Yeah, I wrote down a couple of things. Is like, where does Florida State turn to keep drives alive, to sustain drives? Is that Castellanos' legs? Is it just the run game because they've been pretty good at it? You're running against strength on strength in that situation. And then on the Miami side defensively, they're good enough in the secondary, which we couldn't say in the last couple of years, to basically go one-on-one or have one with a guy over top on Deuce Robinson and let the rest of the defense play the run. I think that's a real strength for them in this spot. And then can Florida State get Beck uncomfortable? I think they have a really good or pretty good receiving core at Miami. It's not elite like it has been in years past. I don't think that makes a difference when you're humming as an offense as they have been, but it's something to pay attention to, because if you can get him off platform and move him around the pocket and kind of control where he is and where his eyes are, it makes a big difference. So it's going to be a ton of fun to watch. I think this one is getting the love it deserves nationally. And we're talking about it because these are two teams with still ACC title hopes and playoff hopes. You know, especially if Florida State comes out of this with a win, you're looking at two teams in the ACC who probably could be 1 and 2, both of them being representatives from the conference.
Yeah, whoever wins this game, we're guaranteed to talk about them again, if not both. So definitely why the game made the board. Let's go to picks. Who you got in this one? Let's go backwards to the front. JP, you're up first. What do you got? Miami, I believe they're still 4.5. Maybe it's down to
right
4.
I'm going to take Florida State plus the points. I think that there's just something here where you're playing in a college football atmosphere. You cannot take emotion out of the sport. You can't take week to week things out of it. Things happen. Things get weird. So I'm excited to watch this. I'll take Florida State plus the 4.5. Real tight. I think they make things a little tougher for the Miami offense than maybe is expected. I do think Castellanos and crew will have a tougher time moving it, but maybe there's a run game here that we can work through and just lean on as the game goes on and get our yards later. So I'll take Miami to win. but I'm not super confident in it, but I'll take Florida State plus points.
Reese.
Yeah, I'm going to lean that. I just think they've shown it on both sides of the football, especially on the trenches. I'm going to go Miami in this spot. I think they're going to be dominant early, and Florida State's going to have to play from behind and try to do some stuff, and Castellanos might make some mistakes. So I'll take Miami in the spot on the road.
All right, I'm super torn in between both because if I pick against Miami, it helps my preseason. Like, this was probably the most balanced game of the week where I really could go either way, but
you lost the preseason thing, man. Let it go.
No, I didn't. It starts this week. Give me the Knowles.
It's under 9.5.
I really do like Miami. In this matchup, I like Miami. I think they can get it going enough on the ground to keep the Florida State offense off the field. They've seen the recipe and what it takes to get it done, so they got to force a couple of turnovers. I think they can force Castellanos to throw the ball, make their mistakes. And I like Miami to control the clock and win this game on the road. Jake.
Yep. All the same reasons. I think that this is a recipe. This is a team and a play style that translates well on the road. Good defensive line, good offensive line, control the clock. And
I know get the Georgia Carson Beck interception big game one. You know what I mean? Like,
then I'll learn from my lesson, and I'll keep that in the back of my mind for next time. But he's turned me around so far. Like I think he's actually a different quarterback this year, and until proven otherwise, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
All right, there it is. 3 on Miami, 1 on Florida State. Maybe that's the Cavender twin difference. Bonk. Let's move on to the next game. Let's stay in the ACC, actually. Let's go to a game that maybe isn't getting enough coverage in the grand spotlight of everything, in my opinion. Let's talk Virginia and Louisville. This matchup.
Ranked Virginia.
Awesome. Virginia coming off of one of the biggest wins, probably, I would say, in school history. Maybe I could be double-checked on that, but it feels like for where they were at a Louisville team who had a massive comeback win against Pitt last week, really tried to give that one away in multiple assets of the game. But here they are, still undefeated, and a touchdown and a half favorite over the Cavs. What do we think on this game, gentlemen? Reese, why don't you go first?
We are a pro Chandler Morris podcast. Shout out University of North Texas alum. The thing about that, though, ever since week 1, they played SMU where they only put up 7 points. But since then, this offense has exploded. They have 45 points a game, and the defense has only given up 23 points a game. And if you know math, that's a winning equation. So if I just expect Virginia to go in this spot, I think we've seen Louisville defensively has been that impressive. I think Chandler Morris will go in here and get his opportunities. If you're giving 7.5, I think that's plenty. I don't think Louisville gets that many more stops. I think Virginia will able to go down there. The big thing is, I talk about this every week, but if you get in the red zone, like, you got to get 6. You can't settle for 3. You got to be confident in your third down calls. You got to be efficient on them. You can't be giving Louisville extra opportunities. In Virginia, like I talked about last week, on the ground, they had 211 yards against a Florida State team who has looked very solid defensively so far too. And granted, that's going into double overtime, so you're getting some extra yards, stuff like that too. But Louisville, I mean, on the road against Pitt, it was an impressive comeback, but that's a Pitt team who really hasn't looked that great. Eli Holstein hasn't looked like what we thought he was going to be. He's really struggled this year. So it's a spot where, yes, it's an impressive win, but that's a spot where, like, if you expect Louisville to be contending for this ACC title, like, they should just go in there and handle that ball game. But, kudos to them and Satterfield and those guys. They did find a way to get that ball game, but a Virginia team that I really didn't pay attention too much in the preseason, but looking at Chandler Morris and what this offense is doing, 45 points a game, like, that's very respectable. Granted, some of those are lesser known teams, but that's an offense that's getting around to everybody. And Louisville's defense has not impressed me so much so far. So if you're going to give me that many points, I think there's no reason Louisville can't go in, or Virginia can't go in and cover that number.
Live is 6.5 at the time of recording.
Oh, it came down?
So, yeah.
Came down. All right. Thank you for the update. Sorry, all these are made on Tuesday night. Clarification, it's not made right before the show. So these numbers do sometimes change and will be updated on our ATS boards come the end of the week. In my mind, this is a battle between two quarterbacks that have simply balled since the start of the year, but have still made their mistakes. I feel like I have a little bit of an inside track. I watch North Texas football probably far often than most outside of North Texas fans. Shout out Mean Green. But Chandler Morris is a guy who takes risk and does make those mistakes. And that's probably putting it lightly. I think if you're Louisville, you have to force Chandler Morris into a Chandler Morris mistake or two. And the best news for Cardinal fans is there's not really been a majority of teams better than that at Louisville this year. They've had 7% of the passes they faced, they have picked off. And that stands at number 1 in college football. They're going to get a few opportunities this week because Chandler Morris slings that fucker whether or not he should. And that's just where Virginia's at. And that's why 45 points is 45 points because sometimes those convert, but it's always not a recipe for success. And when you get into conference play against good teams and well-coached teams like Jeff Braun consistently has, you can run into some issues. So I think that the fix is out where if Miller Moss doesn't make those turnovers like Castellanos had a couple of times last week, you really make it tough on the Hoos on a road. You can say, aside from all the BS, the hangover spot, it's still Virginia, whatever it is. I really think it's just a well-coached football team that if you prove you can come from behind, sometimes that's a wake up enough to come out firing. So I think they can get up early in this game, and I like the Cards and what they can do. I think they force 3 picks, in my opinion, on this week. It just fits on paper. What do you think, JP?
Yeah, I think when you look at Louisville, I understand that last week was kind of misleading and what the defense was doing. Miller Moss threw a lot of picks. Some of those points came off of pick 6, consistently backed up earlier in that one. You do have to look at a Louisville defense that has 12 sacks already on the year. It's not a star-studded lineup like it had been earlier. The past couple of years, they've had some absolute monsters along the defensive front. This is more so like the no-name bunch that just gets after you. And they've played all right competition. They got after Holstein last week when they got settled in. One thing to pay attention to for UVA, though, is Morris doesn't have – he has a favorite target, obviously, but he spreads the ball around. That offense is meant to get many people all involved at once and consistently get guys the football in space and not really key on 1 or 2 guys. Like we've seen and broken down in other football games throughout this, this year. There's certain teams that look towards 1 or 2 guys, and that's just how it operates. I think when you look at Miller Moss – it was a weird start last week, just weird mistakes that made no sense. You saw Braum getting into him on the sideline. Once he got settled in, he really lit up that Pitt defense, and they weren't getting pressure on him. You know what also is pretty good for this Cardinal team? The running back room. And if you can get the running back room humming, this is a UVA team that gave up 256 on the ground to Florida State last week. These are 2 better backs, I think, it's in some ways than what Florida State has, and Watson and Brown. That's a bad recipe. And I think there's a weird matchup here for UVA. They're going to get theirs offensively. I think that's just kind of the fact of the matter. But Parks made the point, and he did it last week. Morris is going to throw a couple balls where it feels like he's playing hero ball a little bit. Yeah. If he doesn't do that, this offense is even better, which is kind of scary for just about everybody in the ACC. So something to pay attention to there. I think Louisville's been good enough defensively in some spots. I think for the most part, it's not the elite defenses we've seen out of that team. If you remember when they played in the ACC title game against Florida State, the Jordan Travis year, that was a year with a really good Louisville defense. This isn't that level, but they're solid enough to get things done. So with the number at 6.5, with this coming back home after the scare, right? You're getting them after a scare where they feel like they probably should have lost it, got kicked back into gear late in that thing. I think that it's just a bad matchup for UVA. I think the ground game gets running. When that gets going, Miller Moss has the ability to get guys on the outside of the football, more so in space. So it's going to be a ton of fun. I don't think you can look at this game and not call it one of the better ones of the year in the ACC, because it's a team in Louisville that was kind of on the back burner. And then a team in UVA that, to be honest with you, still it gets the love because they won a game last week against Florida State, not because they're respected in the wins and what they've been doing. So ton of fun there. Pumped to watch it.
Jake.
Yeah, this one's going to be it's going to be awesome. 2 undefeated ACC teams in conference play. Casuals know that, or I guess the casuals probably don't know that the NC State game didn't count against Virginia. 2 of some of the best passing attacks in all of college football. If you want fireworks, this is what you sign up for. And JP, I'll push back a little bit and say, I think maybe not yet. There's no Ashton Gelati, but I think Cleve Lubin and AJ Green could be 2 household names within the ACC at defensive end. I think they're really good, and I think they could get after Virginia a little bit. And you also mentioned it before, JP, is that, they gave up 253 yards to Florida State on the ground. How about 173 yards to Hollywood Smothers and NC State 2 weeks into the season? So they're very susceptible to the run. And it's not just last week as an example. It's now a theme here. It's funny because statistically, they're actually a decent rush defense, but it's the 2 competent teams they've played. They've been horrendous defending the run. So it's very skewed, obviously, as we're in week 6 here. I will say the flip side, though, because we've been kind of harping on this is a bad matchup for UVA. look at Louisville and their two competent opponents they've played this year. They've dug themselves into a hole both games against JMU and Pitt. Now they've been able to dig themselves out of it. Interested to see if they can. They probably could still go down 14-0 against Virginia and crawl their way back because Chandler Morse will probably have a couple of picks. That's just a given. But I wouldn't bet on it. Like if you're Louisville, the emphasis this week was kind of like my Iowa State Cyclones last week. Start fast. Like we know we're a good football team, but it's time to kick it into gear. Like we're ramping up conference play here. We can't get behind the 8 ball every time we kick off. So I think that's what Louisville's got to focus on.
All right, Jake, how do you feel about the number? 6.5 live right now. It's been around 7.5. Lord knows it'll close. Who you got? What are you thinking?
If you're giving me 6.5, it's Louisville all day. I was a little torn. I was like, 7.5 right there. But if
we're playing close on Wednesday night, so 6.5 is where it is.
Yeah, I'll take it. Absolutely.
I can't agree more. I think JP kind of nailed it more than I should. I should have done it as much as JP did. It's a bad matchup on paper for Virginia and what they've done so far, which has been great. It's great to have the Who's in a game that we can preview on a college football show, but this just doesn't hit for me. Like Jeff Brom's teams, we've seen them in big games, even at Purdue against teams like Ohio State, really come out and come fire. And I think this fits that narrative, and Louisville takes care of business and covers the number. JP.
Cards.
Reese. We've won some unanimous picks on the ATS board. However, we have been bitten in the ass more times than we've won. Reese, are we doing it or not? Like
he gave it away. He gave it away if you were listening.
You know what they say about paper stats, though, right? You don't play the games on the paper. You play the games on the field.
That's why we play.
Give me the Who's. I'll take the points. They're scoring 45 a game. Give me them. I think they're riding something. I'll take them. You're going to give me the points.
See, sometimes just like even where it sounds like he's joking, but he's being serious, where you're kind of laughing through a pick, is the one where Virginia comes out and dominates this game, and we all look like idiots for breaking down the way we are. And that's college football, and that's the beauty of it. So that matchup in the ACC is going to be must-see TV. So make sure you got a TV flipped into that one. All right. Before we go into the next preview, we want to remind you, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you haven't, follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook. What am I missing?
Everything. TikTok.
Everything. It's all the same. At Play the Fight Pod on everything. Give us a follow. We're constantly uploading outside of these live shows. We appreciate you being here more than you know. Let's do it. Marquee matchup time. The game is Iowa State and Cincinnati. Let's go to the Big 12. And Jake's Cyclones hit the road to
Jake's giddy, but like kind of nervous to talk
Big
about.
Big 12 JP's fired up.
To take on the Bearcats and Brendan Sorsby, who kind of found themselves in a little bit more of a spotlight game this week with their massive win on the road last week at Kansas. They are a 1.5-point favorite in this matchup. Gentlemen, let's break this one down from the top. You can feel full thoughts from Jake and JT over on our Iowa State fan perspective, streaming on our YouTube right now. So he'll be more brief with this one, but we will have score predictions at the end. JP, lead us off. Give us the keys to this matchup.
Yeah, apparently, due to our marquee matchup last week, we had to make a change on staff. New Big 12 guy in charge. Me now.
That's JP. Okay.
Let's
That's a JP.
Right. Yeah, that's me. I'm Big 12 JP now.
You're Big 10 Jake.
You
can't have two conferences, Jake.
Oh, I can.
I'm
According
ACC
to the comments last week.
I will take the American.
Yeah. Let's jump into it, though. You look at what Cincinnati did last week and just getting into a really game at KU and winning that one outright in Lawrence on a last-second drive or a late-game drive. Jalen Daniels kind of had a day against this defense, right? That was a different kind of Jalen than you'd seen. That was vintage of 2 years ago, Jalen Daniels. And the numbers were nuts. Henderson, his receiver, had the majority of them. A couple of big plays probably inflated his specific numbers a little bit, but they were getting big plays consistently. There was gashes to be had within this Cincinnati defense, so you can't really blink at it. I look at it from the Iowa State side, and I'm like, Sowell had a great week last week against Arizona. Is this his second ability or his second chance to kind of make plays again and get vertical? Because Rocco throws the ball better than Daniels. If there's a way that Sowell can continue to do that, maybe Eskildson is that guy this week. He was doing it more so when they were in Ireland. He did it against Iowa a couple of times. The tight ends, I think, are just a matchup for anybody and everybody. It's tough. So I don't want to highlight them too much because everybody's going to have to cover them. They're going to get theirs. That's just how it works in that offense. They're going to be targeted. On the defensive side for Iowa State, Obviously, you're coming with a couple injuries at the cornerback position. It's still really good run defense, veteran linebacking core, a pretty solid front. Dom Orange sounds like he's going to be just fine, ready to go. Jake, if I say anything on the injury notes that you've seen that I haven't hit the buzzer, let me know.
Yeah, correct.
Sounds like he's going to be good to go. Everything will be fine. That changes things a lot for any team that wants to run the football on them. Good news is, for Cincinnati, they run the ball well. That's what they're going to go into trying to do. And I think that's something with Sorsby that can't go unnoticed, is that not only is he good with his legs in the run game, he avoids sacks like just about good as anybody. Last week was the first sack he'd taken on the year. And to be honest with you, the only reason he got hit is because he snapped the ball and he had a guy in his face and he didn't have a chance to get away from it. He doesn't get taken down. He doesn't lose yardage in that sense of everything. So can Iowa State continue to be pretty solid against the run? I would say this is probably one of the better attacks on the ground they've seen. Kansas State, obviously in Ireland, is probably the second best version of what they've seen on the ground this year to this point. I think this Cincinnati team has the ability to scheme some things a little bit better in some ways. How hard does Cincinnati, test the new DBs? Is there a way that they continue to try to capitalize on the success last week in Lawrence and beat a couple new corners that are going to be tested and they've played before? It's not like they're completely new to the world. So I'm really excited to see what they do and what their game plan is to attack this Iowa State defense. On the other side, I think Rocco, like Jake said early in this show, doesn't get the same respect some of these other Big 12 quarterbacks do. He's going to get his. He hasn't had the situation yet where he's made the mistakes. And, from years past, I will say this, that if you're going to go into a game where you have to win something gritty or you have to do something late to win it, Rocco's done it just about more than anybody in the country. So that's a good thing to have it on their side. One stat that one key point, and last thing I'll talk about here. Again, Rocco's done the game-winning thing many times, late game, one possession type things. Control the line of scrimmage, control the game. Can you get Cincinnati off the field on 3rd and 4th down? And then can Cincinnati get Iowa State off the field on 3rd and 4th down? Because they haven't done it very much in the last couple of games. So pumped to watch this one. It's going to be one of my favorites.
Yeah, that was a pretty well-rounded breakdown, and I feel like a lot of my points are just kind of spin-offs of that, so maybe I'll be a little bit shorter, but I'm glad this game became a highlight, and I think Cincinnati is to credit for that because Iowa State's obviously top 15 team, but with that win on the road last week, they kind of opened some eyes for some people, especially in the Brendan Sorsby world. His stock has only been on the rise since the start of the season. Rocco Beck's just been Rocco Beck and what we've known on the show, but maybe the college football world will have a chance to be put on notice this week if he can go off again. But one thing noted he talked about last week with Cincinnati is, one, they had so many touchdowns called back, they probably could have put up 4 or 5 more scores. Granted, they still scored on some of those drives, but a couple of them, they really opened some things up. And on the flip side, their defense, fellas, they still gave up 30-plus points. Like Kansas got theirs. And Jalen Daniels was really good, as JP mentioned. So there is opportunities in this game for Iowa State to get theirs. And one thing I think they're definitely going to do is slow this thing down a little bit because they know the talent the Cincinnati team has on offense. And I think guys like Abu Sama, Carson Hansen can get things going and slow it down enough to give Iowa State the upper hand or in the overall matchup. I think on the flip side, it's kind of the same recipe for Cincinnati. If you want to win this football game, you got to get Tawi Walker rolling and you got to get Evan Pryor going. And Pryor is one of the more underrated backs in the Big 12, in my opinion. His ability to cut, he's just a damn good back overall. So I think the home field's going to matter a tad bit. But on the defensive side for Cincinnati, one name I want to highlight, Jake Goldie. Is Goldie or Golday? They can tell me. I'm not sure. I'm sure they'll correct me in the comments. Golday, yeah. Stud. I previewed him early this year when Nebraska played in this game. One of the best linebackers in the Big 12 for sure. And I think Joe Royer on the flip side on their offense is one of the best tight ends in the Big 12 and the country. So they have their weapons. But I think when it comes down to it, I trust Matt Campbell in this spot to slow this game down enough and basically coach this team through to a win. I just got to put my belief in Iowa State, lean in that way, but we'll get to score predictions. Reese.
Yeah, I got to correct myself. I believe when I talked about Louisville, I said that coach's name is Satterfield. That's Cincinnati. This coach's name is Satterfield. But when you look at this one, too, I think, like you just hit the nail on the head, Parksy. I think it's Matt Campbell and this defense. Iowa State has looked very good on that side of the football. They're only giving up 14 points a game, and they're already giving up 118 yards on the ground right now. So, and then you look at Cincinnati, who's averaging almost 200 yards on the ground. So something's got to give here. I think it's if Cincinnati gets that ground game going early, Sorsby leading the team with rushes, but that's also like, him getting out of the pocket and improvising with his legs. But if they get that going early, then I think it's a little bit more of a test for Iowa State. But if Iowa State is able to set the tone defensively, limit the plays over the top, load the box, keep Sorsby in the pocket, make them beat them with his arm, I think that's kind of the recipe that Iowa State goes for here. But Cincinnati too, like, you've been tested pretty solid twice on the road this year. That game in Nebraska, that's a road game. That's supposed to be a home game for you. I don't know why you played in Kansas City. You did two road games so far. You went and got the big win on the road last week in Lawrence. But like Parksy said, that defense did give up over 30. So I think that's something you got to concern yourself with. Getting this one at home is big. I think that helps in this situation, but I think Iowa State is just a more disciplined and sound football team. And you talk about if you give me Rocco Beck or Brendan Sorsby, I'm going to go Rocco Beck in this spot.
All right, Jake, what are you thinking? We gave a lot of thoughts. Are we dumb? Are we smart? You're a Big Ten guy, but talk about the Big 12 for a second.
You guys are making me nervous the way I think this is going to go. the way I we get to predictions, the way I think this is going to go. I am glad that we're going to touch on it a little bit because I didn't get to get my thoughts out there on the Jontez Williams situation because we recorded on Tuesday night. Really stunning. Actually, looking back, it's like, okay, that did look like an ACL, but at the time, it looked like an ankle. And losing your top two all Big 12 cornerbacks is a huge deal. And I know the sky is falling in Ames right now, but I just didn't have as big of a reaction, I think, as most of the fan base did. According to PFF, Iowa State plays man coverage 12% of the time this year. I did not coach college football, so maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but I feel like it's a lot easier to teach zone than it is to teach man coverage. And I think you can plug and play. And Iowa State has proven to develop 2-star, 3-star cornerbacks, young freshmen in the secondary to plug and play right away. Now, we're not going to get David Coffey or Quentin Joyner to go out there and play, or I think Quentin Taylor. I was thinking of Quentin Joyner to go out there and play like all Americans. That's not going to happen. I like Trey Bell. I think he's really good. I think he steps into an all Big 12 starting lineup pretty well, but we'll see what some of these freshmen do. I think it's just going to be a lot easier. You're going to rely on the depth of your safeties who are healthy right now, knock on wood, and the depth of your linebackers who are also healthy. And you got Carson Willich back last week, who just makes a hell of a difference kind of at that outside linebacker nickelback spot. So I think the linebackers and safeties will make up for the corners. I really am not that worried about it. If I'm looking at Cincinnati, Dante Corleone's listed as questionable right now, and Scott Satterfield's he says trending in the right direction. I think I've heard Campbell say that before, and that means he's out for at least 3 more weeks. Put the clown nose on me on Monday if he comes out and has 20 tackles. Fine, I don't care. But losing Corleone, to me, that would be like losing Dom Orange for us. That is much more detrimental to a defense than losing a couple of cornerbacks, at least in this situation. So this is already in Cincinnati, one of the worst pass defenses in all of college football. Lastly, I'll say this too, and I did mention this on my video, so I won't go too long. Nebraska also runs a 3-3-5. Sorsby, last year against Iowa State, 65 passing yards. This year against Nebraska, 67 passing yards. I think Nebraska plays a little more man in their scheme, but it's the same. It's basically the same thing. I just Sorsby's been really good, but if it comes down to a one-score game, I'm going to take the guy who's won 9 of their last 10. And I know Sorsby let him down last week, but I also mentioned this on my video. Guys, he threw it right to the safety. That would have been game over. And the dude just dropped it. And good on them. They capitalized and won the game. But this is a team under Scott Satterfield that is 3-9 in one-score games and should be 2-10. So I'll leave that there.
That is a massive full breakdown of this matchup. Make sure you smash the subscribe button if you're joining us for this clip. Let's go into score predictions for this one. JP is going to kick us off. JP, tell us who you got, a little bit of why.
Yeah, well, to start this thing off, I just put this pick in before I really dove into it, but I'm going to stay where I am. There's a couple things within the world of taking picks in college football. Understand the trends. There's certain rules and principle plays, and you got to smell the rat. I smell the rat here. There's no reason Cincinnati should be the favorite, the 1.5 point favorite here, but there is a reason that they're going to run the ball well here and have a chance to win the football game. So I'll take Cincinnati here.
Do it. Yes. Do it. Yes.
Yeah, JP on Cincinnati. My reasons are a little different, but I really do like the Clones in this one. I think that they come out. I think they're a well-coached team. I think they do establish the run early. I think Nebraska, when they played Cincinnati early this season, they could run it in the first half. One thing I've been impressed with is Cincinnati's second half adjustments. It comes down to an adjustment battle. I think Matt Campbell understands his team really well. I think Iowa State gets this one done on the road, 27-23. Going to be a dogfight, but one-score game in favor of Iowa State, something I can always bet on. Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll go with my boy Jay Bird. Shout out to Jay Bird in the comments. He says ISU wins big. In big terms, I'll say Iowa State wins by 10. 31-21 is what I had in my video. I'm going to stick to that. This team's been doubted all year, man, and it just continues to prove that way. Nobody picked them against K-State. A lot of people doubted they could get it done against Iowa. That line went from like 7.5 against Arizona all the way down to 3.5 at kickoff. Everyone was hammering Arizona. And you look at the line, it opens at 1.5 Iowa State. It is now they're an underdog once again. So it's Matt Campbell's at his best when they're in this spot, and I'm going to continue to trust them. So we'll see.
All right, Reese, we got a 2-2 split. Are we going 3-on-1 with JP here?
Yeah, I'm leaning the road team in this spot too. I just think Iowa State is way too disciplined. I mentioned this before in my little preview, but they've only been penalized 13 times through 5 games. That travels when you're on the road, especially with the Matt Campbell team. Schaefer talked about how poor Cincinnati's pass defense has been. I think Rocco Beck sees that. They were going to get creative, get some guys open. And then Hansen's been fantastic on the ball too, as well as Sama. And if they can get out early and slow it down, keep it away from Sorsby, especially if they can't get the run game going, they got to try throwing it. They're going to be playing catch up, which I think Iowa State gets ahead by maybe 10 in this game. And then Cincinnati's playing catch up, but Iowa State just kind of keeps it going. I lean them in this spot. I don't really understand this number. Vegas can slap me and tell me I'm wrong, but I don't get how Cincinnati goes and beats the favorite in this spot. So even with them being the home team.
All right, 3 on the Clones, 1 on Cincy. Jaybird with a little shout out to JP. What the hell, man? You know how those
No, this is good. Jaybird, this is good. We want him to pick Cincy. We don't want any unanimous picks.
Listen, I played this off of principle. Like last week, I took LSU in a spot where you had to smell the rat and just roll with Ole Miss. It's happened in a billion years before. Smell the rat here. Why are they favored against the ranked team when it feels like Iowa State's much better? I don't know. There's probably a reason out there. Someone smarter than me put together in some computer. So,
all right, that is the marquee matchup for this week. Make sure you smash the subscribe button, hit the like button if you're joining us for this preview on YouTube. We appreciate you. Let's move it down the line. Let's go to our last preview of the week, and that is our G5 game of the week. A little bit of a drum roll. What's the game going to be? Let's talk Tops and Blue Hens.
Friday Night Lights.
What a beautiful matchup we have on a Friday. Western Kentucky heads to Delaware. A Conference USA matchup you won't want to miss. JP, tell us why.
There's a lot of reasons you don't want to miss this. I have the win total for Delaware over 4.5. Took that preseason. I thought this team was going to be pretty darn good. Had a chance to go bowling. Obviously, with the transition stuff, it changes rules a little bit. And Western, a team that sits atop the CUSA quite a bit. And now they're in a real road test. This is a Delaware team that's looked better than we thought, and had a big win earlier a couple weeks ago playing UConn at home. I think when you look at Delaware, you have to look at them. They are at their best when they're balanced. Play calling is pretty much right down the middle. It's like a 49-51 split run to pass. They also do a great job yardage-wise, running the football really well, and then they have the ability with Nick Minicucci to throw it through the air when they need to via the play action. 247 yards on the ground against UConn, 140 on FIU. What does Western Kentucky not do very well? Anybody want to raise their hand and let me know that answer?
Defend the run.
Defend the run. What does Western Kentucky
not good.
do really well offensively that Delaware's had some issues with?
Throw the ball.
Sling it around the yard. It's just a battle of like my best on your worst and switch it around the football. So you look at what Western's done with McIver, and that offense has always been very predicated on getting the ball distributed to a bunch of different playmakers and a bunch of different receivers throughout it. The difference here is that the offensive line has not been good for Western. And I'm not saying that this is a Delaware team in the front 7 or even in the front 4 that's going to get after you consistently and just be an absolute havoc wrecking crew. But it's one of the offensive line struggling. You're going to tee off a little bit. You look at kind of the best statistical pieces just for these offenses. It's an offenses that lead Conference USA in points per game, pass yards a game, and total yards. So there's a shootout possibility here. This number I think is up in the 60s over under wise. Outside of Western playing some games, like I think Delaware is a little more tested. They've been through the ringer a little bit more. They have an FIU win. They went on the road and played Colorado close for a half. It felt like they brought UConn in, UConn's not bad. That's a pretty good independent. That's a better UConn team than what you've thought in the past. So I'm excited to watch this. I think Delaware is a bad matchup for Western, though. I think McIver and Helton get theirs offensively, but when it comes to you have to stop the run and Minicucci and Silver and Ellison in the backfield, it gets a little tougher. So it's going to be a ton of fun. First Conference USA home game for the Hens. This place is going to be on fire, right?
I would expect it to be a little bit of an atmosphere for sure. I think when I look at Delaware, JP already mentioned it, but where they've struggled, and I want to emphasize one game, is through the passing game. And fellas, Ryan Staub, of all people, had a day on this Delaware defense. And Ryan Staub has had very few days in his collegiate football career. I think McIver is in for one. I think he's going to throw for 350 yards against this Delaware defense. But on the flip side of things, I think Delaware is going to run for 350 yards against this Western team, which is why this matchup should be highlighted the way that it is. I think if we get into a shootout situation, I have absolutely no problem putting my money on Helton every single time. I think this is the best offense overall that Delaware has played. And yes, that includes Colorado. I think that their scheme is great, good enough to get around the mid to average line that JP already mentioned. I lean Western Kentucky in this spot because I've been so impressed with what McIver's done. But you can also pencil in a Western Kentucky quarterback throwing for a lot of yards when it comes to any college football season with the scheme that they run. I just think throwing the football, they're going to score, and they're going to score quickly, and it might take Delaware a little bit of too much time to score when it comes to their opportunities. I don't know if it'll be those break-off runs if they have the breakaway speed enough from a Western secondary. That's not half bad. So I like Western Kentucky off the rip, but maybe I can be persuaded. Does anybody have any points on Delaware, Jake or Reese? What do you think?
Can I interest you? Can I interest you in a stat? I believe Western Kentucky is one of 8 teams in America that is averaging giving up 200 yards, over 200 yards on the ground. Like they are letting a semi.
Yeah, I said that. I said their run defense not good, but they're going to score.
No. We said it was not good, but how not good? There's only like 8 teams giving over 200
it's bad.
And they're one.
Okay, it's bad.
Okay, let me give you another little stat. According to Bill Conley's
do this one for me, not against me.
Okay, I'll give you one here. It's not a stat, but I think KD Hutchinson and Matt Henry, like those are one of the 2 best receiving duos in Conference USA. I think they're fantastic. I think they make McIver and that kind of offense, but that's personally my opinion. Here's another stat for you, and I'll let you take this for what it's worth. Bill Conley's power ratings. Here are the wins for Western Kentucky. North Alabama is ranked 231st. Sam Houston is ranked 175th. Nevada is ranked 139th. Missouri State is ranked 129th. Gentlemen, if you did not know, there are 136 FBS teams. So they're basically wins are against 3 FCS opponents and then basically Missouri State. So you could say they've beaten 4 FCS level teams to this point. Delaware's ranked about 94th. Another stat, last one. Shout out to Topper Talk, all your awesome Western Kentucky coverage. Shout out to those guys. They gave me a stat on Delaware. Delaware's won 10 home games in a row in 5 straight games. They've won coming off of a bye. I know I'm leaned really heavily Delaware in this situation, but Western Kentucky, it's also like, how are you betting against a Conference USA staple in such a short spread at this point? You know what I mean? So I don't know. Something's got to give.
Reese.
All those stats made me think he was going to go the other way. Parks, I got some stat for us in a second that'll make us feel better about this. JP, I got to go hands up because you had the over this wins. I had the under, and right now they're at 3-1 and 2-0 in the Qs. So good for the Hens. But yeah, like this Western Kentucky team, Maverick McIver, what a get they got from Abilene Christian. The dudes got over 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns. They're going to turn it over twice. You got 3 receivers with over 200 yards. Then not to mention Noah Myers over for the tight end. He's kind of a sneaky guy that can get you some yards when you need it too. Going on the road, yeah, you're going to Delaware. I don't like. Yeah, it'll be on fire, but I think
There'll
Western
be
Kentucky
dozens
okay.
of fired up people. No, I'm kidding. It's a great fan base. They are.
That's a great.
It'll be
Do not
it'll be
rattle
good.
the cage
It'll
like
be full. It'll be full. I'm sure it will be, but it's I mean, it's the Q, so we'll be okay. McIver will be all right, especially if they can. We talk about that pass defense, Delaware. It's just not there. And if McIver can beat them over the top, I think they're gonna get their licks. And you get your guys crossers in the middle to make guys miss. I think it's just fine. And then Parks, here we go on these little Snyder stats throwback to the It's Just Money days. The Hilltoppers have run the Conference USA 15-2 straight up record in conference play. They have also been road warriors, 7-3 straight up or against the spread in their last 10 games as road dogs of a spread of a field goal or less. We like those numbers.
I love those numbers. I love those numbers. I like that. Okay. I'm feeling good about where we're at. We might have a 2-2 split here. Let's see. Picks wise, Delaware, a 3-point favorite at home in this big time matchup on Friday. JP, which way are you going?
Yeah, I didn't mention this. Mo State is not a very good football team, right? Don't run the football very well. 214 over 600 a pop when they played Western. Pagano did
and
have
a loss. Just kidding. Go ahead.
Hey,
it's true. This is true.
Yeah, they did lose. That's true. This is true. I think we've made the joke that there's teams out there that probably could beat Mo State playing at other levels. Pagano did have his with UConn against this Delaware team, like really good passing numbers. I just like high scoring. I'm not saying Delaware's going to be here and just be stout defensively and stop everything that McIver and Helton has to do with Western. But I don't have Western going in there winning this football game. I have Delaware controlling things offensively, getting chunk plays through the ground, and then the pass afterwards, and just enough, just enough energy in the atmosphere to give me a stop when it matters. I'll take the Hens outright -3.5 too, or the 3, whatever the number is. I don't give a shit.
I feel like I've kind of taken away.
He doesn't care.
These just the moment building to my pick, but I got the tops. I got the tops plus the 3 on the road. I love them in this spot. I think McIver has a day. I think they're going to give up theirs. I think we have a high scoring affair, but give me a Helton offense all day long. Jake.
Hens. Love them at home. This is a big one. I think that this might be the biggest home game they've had so far. So Friday Night Lights.
All right, going against the best receiver duo in Conference USA. I like that. You just gave a stat against you, Reese.
We got another split this week. Give me the tops in this spot. I think even if the Blue Hens run the football and they are able to put up points, I think McIver is going to be able to beat him over the top and keep him in the football game. I just think Western Kentucky's got too much going for on offense. So
Ryan Staub looked like Cam Newton against this Delaware passing attack.
It's a Big 12 team versus a first-year Conference USA team. That's not the
bad Big 12 team. Ryan Staub. Ryan Staub, of all people. All right, that is Delaware and Western Kentucky, the G5 game of the week. Make sure you smash the subscribe button, hit the like button. We appreciate you being here. We cover the G5 every week, and we have our game of the week, so make sure you stick around on our channel all year long for your G5 coverage. Okay, that's it, gentlemen, for the previews. Let's go into the best betting segment to end tonight's show. Let's kick it off with the dog's dog. Last week, Parks made some ground up. Jake was running his mouth all week. Here comes Parksy with the only win on the board. Illinois plus the 6.5, an outright winner against USC. The other loss is Syracuse plus 5.5 against Duke. That did not hit. Bowling Green plus 10.5 plus against Ohio. That did not hit. Right, and there. Georgia Southern plus 17 against James Madison.
Didn't get there. That was the worst one of the day.
Current standings stand JP.
I know Syracuse is the worst. Syracuse is bad.
JP at 12 points, Reese at 10 points, Jake at 9, and myself at 7. Here he comes. Can you hear those footsteps? Let's go to the bets this week. From the top down, JP, your pick first.
Yeah, there's 2 of them on the board here. I think one's a principal play. The other one is, hey, ride the wave. I'm going to take Purdue plus a 9.5 with Illinois coming out of town. I don't think we've talked about it. This is, and again, an approved Purdue team, an Illinois team that's kind of riding the roller coaster right now, the highest of highs, the lowest of lows. Now you got to go play a rivalry game on the road. I think Purdue is ready for this one, so I'll take them plus a 9.5.
Okay.
It's a rivalry.
It is.
It is a rivalry. That's a good call out there, Jake. Reese, you're up next.
We just covered this one, but the line is what we said it could be covered. So I'm going to take the tops plus the 3 going on the road at Delaware.
Okay, I like that. He's feeling confident. He's got it as a dog's dog. Jake, where are you going with yours?
I was just going to ask if we're doing 3, if 3 counts, because I guess if we're allowing that for Reese, we're going to allow it for me, because I'm going to take Cal, the Calgorithm, +3 at home.
Thought about that too.
I think the wrong team's favored. I'll just put that there. So that's my dog.
JKS.
All right.
You want to tell people out there who they're playing, a little podcasting,
Did I say Duke? Did I not say Duke?
You
They're
did not
playing
say
Duke.
Duke.
You did not
Okay,
say nothing
sorry.
besides your
Duke?
pick.
Duke looked really good last week.
Yeah,
they played
I
a really
was-
good team, though.
Duke went up north and looked great against an awesome
looked really good.
Syracuse team who didn't have their starting quarterback.
Damn
And
it.
now they've got to go across the country and play at I believe they're playing at like midnight East Coast time. Isn't this a 9:30 kick?
I didn't see the time on it.
I'm pretty sure it is. We already saw what Minnesota did to them, and Minnesota's only halfway there. This team's got to go all the way across. And I think it's going
Fellas.
to be ugly.
It's dog's dog time. I got to make up some points. I see a situation where I can take a top of this leaderboard, and it resides in Gainesville. Give me Florida
Oh,
plus
yeah.
6.5 against Texas. Florida's defense, as much as Lagway has played bad, Florida's defense has played very well. And I think an Arch Manning football coming out of that hand may find its way into Florida Gators. And even if they don't win the game, it feels like it could be a Texas field goal to walk it off. I like the Floridas in Gainesville this week.
Hey, do you guys hate Wyoming plus the 3.5 at home against UNLV? That one felt like Laramie. Like, see, that was my other one.
Laradice.
Yeah.
Just
The
betting on
Laradice
Laradice.
game?
Laradice.
I like that. That sounds like a venereal.
Is that what you're going with?
No. I'm taking
You already
Purdue. I'm
picked.
just saying that was
my
option
bad, my
two.
bad.
Somebody
Yeah,
wanted it.
sorry.
Jake, you got to lock in. He's falling asleep. Let's go to best bets before he does. Best bets. Boys, not a great week. An even better than great week. 3 winners on the board, and JP finally breaks the curse with an over last week out of Arkansas and Notre Dame.
JP.
Notre Dame
Pump
probably
JP.
could have done it
Don't
on
let
their
him
own.
get hot.
Yep. So the record, I believe, stands at 9-11. What are the picks this week? Because Indiana was a loss from Reese last week. I hit on North Texas again. JP over 64.5 that Notre Dame Arkansas game. And then Jake, La Tech minus 3.5 against UTEP. That's a win. So let's get 3 to 4. Hey, hell, let's do 4 this week. Best bets. JP, you first. Coming off a big win.
Reese, we've had conversations before. I'm curious if you're going to go there. I'm going to leave it for you. If you want it, remember.
Don't
Principal
take
I,
my
play
have,
on
I
that.
have zero clue where you're going.
But Jake,
Go ahead.
Principal
they've
play.
made a change.
I know,
Bringing
but
me
not the
in.
right
He's
change.
bringing me in.
Oh, okay.
They've made a change, but they haven't made the right change. Give you San Diego State minus a 6.
Good pick.
Colorado State. So I just think we are making the wrong decision. I don't think it's a Fowler Nicolosi problem. I don't think it's an offensive coordinator problem. I think
Shane
it's a talent
Norvell problem.
So San Diego State found a way to win, scoring a lot on Cal, found a way to win ugly in DeKalb last week. Let's do it again. Let's beat a team towards the bottom of the Mountain West.
I like that. That ruffles my feathers very nicely. I will go to my pick next so nobody steals it. Fellas, 10.5. Houston and Texas Tech. I don't give a shit how much you think that line stinks. Houston
10.5.
stinks.
Where are you getting 10.5? I saw 12 last night.
It's 10.5 live right now, Jake. Look it up. Give me
I saw
Texas
10.5
Tech
before the show.
minus
Wow.
10.5 on the road against Houston. I think they cover this number easily. Houston
That's
struggled with
really
a
Houston.
bad Oregon State team last week. I think Texas Tech is way too talent loaded. Give me the $30 million roster and 10.5 points all day long. Jake,
Yeah, Houston's on their 3rd string left tackle. That's like the 3rd straight week of mine getting picked. This is unbelievable. All right. I guess I'll take the line that absolutely stinks because it was 16.5 last night and it's now moved, and I'm just
Oh,
pissed off
no.
about it. I'm going Michigan minus the 17.5. Wisconsin.
that's
Why-
a great pick.
17.5?
I think
You took-
That's
you
what I
told
had.
Reese's.
You took my I took yours last week. You took mine this week. Damn.
it was 16.5 last night. I wanted to put real money on it. I saved it. Now I've got 7. I'll take 17.5 tonight. That's fine. I'll eat it.
Shafe, that's a great pick. I don't know if you realize, but
Wisconsin's
Wisconsin
bad.
doesn't really have a quarterback situation. Even when they do have a quarterback, they're still god awful. Like that's why I love that pick. Like Wisconsin might score 7 or 10 points, and Michigan. All Michigan's got to do is score 20.
Reese, you need Daddy to come up with one, or what's the deal here? You got
No. I have a backup that I'm just going in the well for. This is I don't know if you guys can. This is one that I
one? Confidence.
when
Best
we were on-
bet.
when we were on the bachelor party. This was my
Good
backup
point,
right here.
JP.
I didn't hear what he said at all. But
Principal
I'm
Principal
going to
play.
go.
There's a principal play this weekend.
There is.
Oh, there's a principal play is that Kent State sucks and they're going to play Oklahoma. So give me Oklahoma minus 45 and a half.
No!
I don't
Wasn't
care
it?
if Pierce
40-point lines in week 6. Yes.
Penn State and 8 scoring. This is just like that. I think it was 45 and a half against Florida State.
You're a soldier, damn it! You played a principal.
Nope,
Yes.
not yet.
No, the principal play, if you're
Nope.
new to the Play the Fight Song show, it's Armed Forces unders. We take the Academy unders. That is just what we do here. So those will be bet this weekend. But there's a couple of low-hanging fruits out there, guys. Any other bets that you feel good about that maybe is not your best bet? I mean, I kind of like TCU minus 13.5 against the Colorado defense. That sucks. Took a step forward last week, but still sucks overall. I like Hoover to go off in that game. Any other bets? I kind of like Texas A&M minus the 14.5. I think Mississippi State's good. I think Texas A&M's significantly better. Any other bets that you guys like?
I like Delaware enough to play it.
Whoa, stupid bet.
Yeah,
All right,
right.
with
I'll
Good
play
luck.
it.
that's
Stupid bet.
the full show for this week. Week 6 preview in the books. We appreciate you being here. Shout out to our great partners at FrostBuddy, frostbuddy.com/PTFS. Shout out to our other great partner at No Rivals, shopnorivals.com. Use code PTFS for free shipping on shopnorivals.com. Check out all of their new collections and teams. We love you so much. Appreciate you being here. We'll see you next week for the Week 7 preview. Make sure you tune in to all of our fan perspectives. Subscribe to the YouTube, like the video, follow us on all platforms. See you next week. Jake, take it away.
See you week 7. Play it.